7th session of Gleanings, 7th out of 17, and of which all of these 7, the text that I've been using is on the Clearwater site. And in case you're not sure where to find that, I think Jeremiah could just post it in the chat so that you could just go and copy it. And anytime you want to go and find any one of those presentations, the text of them are there. Now, the nice thing to have, the reason to have the text is because when I present orally, there's no way that I can present 100% of what I've written down. There's a lot of extra. Some sessions more than others. So that gives you plenty of material to look at if you want to at any point, because even though we're doing this consecutively, it's not necessary to study these excerpts in that way. You can bop around any way you feel. And in fact, that's very often the way you come to a better understanding. It's because you remember something, a little something about something you read a few sessions back. You go back and you read it, and then it clarifies what you're reading presently. I do it all the time myself, so I highly recommend it. So we're going to get started here. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to actually use the course, the online course. So instead of me posting a document and then going through the document, I'm going to take you for a ride. And this is hopefully a ride you've been on before, but it's not a big deal. If you haven't been on this ride, I'm going to show you how to do it. And once you've seen me how to do it, you can try it yourself. Now, if you're somebody like me who needs to actually write down the steps that you take in order to get things done, get yourself a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, and you can actually write things down, right? But the other thing we can do is that perhaps we can, in the chat, we could put a list, just a brief list of do this, do that, the other. The other thing is if it doesn't work for us to do it in the chat, I'm going to send you an announcement. And I want to talk about announcements just for a second here. When you're in the course, there are announcements. I can send announcements. You can't send announcements, but what you can do is you can send chat. You have the capacity to chat. And in your chat, you can ask me questions. You can talk to me like you would in email, or in text. It's very simple, very straightforward. If you don't know where to find that, I'll take you there. Okay? But first, let's open the course. So I'm going to share now. And I'm going to go to Russian jets ignored. No, I don't think that's really what I was looking for. All right, so hold on a second. Let me see if I can. For some reason, my screen is not showing what I want it to show. So give me a sec. I'm going to go back to my document and make sure that I've got what I want you to see right up front. There it is. Okay, now, here we go. Share. Okay, here you go. Now, anybody's taken this course, this is where you want to go first. You see what this is? This is Ocean 2.0 Reader. Very simple to find. oceanlibrary.com/library/ bingo. You can even put some of that up and it will still, load. So you get into this, and this is going to show you our entire library. But if you want to take the course, you want to know where to get to the course. It's very simple. You're going to take your cursor and you're going to slide down here. You're just going to go slide on down until you get to the very bottom. There's nothing else here. And look what's here in the second column, the middle column. It says about, and then it says courses. You click on courses, and bingo, we only have one course right now. Over here we have, it says teaching 6. That means there are 6 courses in the process of being developed. Okay? But they're not finished yet, so they aren't published. When they're published, then they'll be listed under all courses. All right? And you're going to have a lot of fun later on because there are courses on all kinds of really interesting topics here that are under development. So here you've got the course. So you want to get into the course. You go over here with your cursor and you click on it. Bingo. It's that simple. You're in. Now, what do you want to do? You want to do group study, right? So you go, you choose group study. Do you understand what I'm saying? Choose it like that. Okay? Once you choose it, then you're going to get your cursor over here. Put it, make sure it's in the middle, not over on the side. Okay? And you slide down. You've got to hear the description of the course. Then you have me, and then you have the lessons. So all you have to do is slide down here with your cursor, and you come to number 7, and that's where we are. Okay? Then you're going to click on number 7, and then it has a little description of what number 7 has, which readings from Gleanings are there by Roman numeral, and it says very briefly about where they come from. Okay? But I've done this in very brief style because it's not really all that important that, you have that information. You just want to have it available someplace. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to slide down. And what do I see here?
Peter,
Yeah,
let
yeah,
me
go
interrupt
ahead.
you there for a
Sure,
second,
go ahead.
because you're showing them the course instructor view, and they're not gonna be able to see that and access it. So let me
Oh,
show
I'm
them.
sorry.
Let
Absolutely. Here, I just switched it over. Okay. I switched it over. Okay, so let me do this. Let's go back to group study. We'll start from there, okay? Thank you for pointing that out because I now for some reason I don't understand why it's not doing the group study, so we'll go back to courses. We're going to go back to here, okay? So you're here, and actually you're enrolled in group study, so you don't have to pick group study, I don't think. I think you're just automatically in group study, so you're going to go there. You're going to go down here, and you're going to go to number 7. Okay? You're going to click on it. And then it's going to give you this description. And then the same thing, use your cursor, except for some reason.
Yeah, you're still showing them the same instructor. Here, I'll share my screen and
All right.
it will be easier, and I think so. Give me a second.
Okay. So see the thing I want to explain to all of you the reason why we're talking about this instructor and student, because they're 2 different ways of seeing the whole app. There's mine that I use all the time for developing the course because I'm ongoing developing the course. And then there's the student view where you see the final work, what's accomplished. Okay. So Jeremiah has got the student view, which he's going to show you. Okay. So I showed you pretty much, I showed you what it looks like from a teacher's point of view. Now he's going to go back and it's going to be slightly different from, now you want to go down to courses on the bottom. Wow. That's some intense colors.
You see the app, correct? Because when I click on courses, it's going to take me directly to the app.
Cool.
It's going to want people to install it, the app. I think I can open it up and do it on the web as well. So give me a second. But right now, the main key that everyone needs to understand is when you go to group study, you see my mouse and you see what I highlighted, correct?
Yep.
You have to go in and first enroll. All right. There's independent study where you can enroll. I'm not in that one. There's group study. I've already enrolled. And so I resume study. Once you click on resume study, then you're able to get in to and use these features.
Now, do
So,
you all see the menu on the left side? Okay. The messages, go ahead and click on that. See that? See, it's announcements. Every single time I send a message to you, it's going to go to announcements. Okay. Now, it may also be going to your email. It's supposed to be going to your email, but this is a first trial version of this course, and so it may not. But it definitely goes to your announcements. So if you go click on announcements, you'll get it. And then if you go back, you can go back and then you can select the one that the session that you want to do. And they're numbered. You see what's going on here? That's session 1. It's got the whole text there. Okay? And then if you go on the menu on the left again, or you can go next. Yes, you can do that. But this is going to be next still in 1. So if you want to see 2, you click on 2. If you want to go 3, you go to 3. In our case, you can go to 7 and you'll get 7. Now, the only difference in appearance, where's 7? Oh, it's there. Okay, fine. All right. Now 7, you see these underlinings in blue? Those are notes. That's where I've inserted the notes that I developed to help explain the meaning of the text. Okay? And in these notes, there's text in now, why don't you click on that? So just any one of them so you can see. There's a text there that's in, for some reason, you have the night version, I think, which is white on black. You can also choose the day version, which is black on white. But in any case, it's not all that important which you have. What's important to understand is that when I have quotations from somebody other than Baha'u'llah, I give them a color because I want them, or even quotations from Baha'u'llah here. If it's my text, I'm going to write it in a different way so that you can see right away it's going to pop out. Okay? So what I'm doing now in all of these selections is the Roman numeral at the top of the reading is going to bring you to my introduction, which is an introduction to each of it's the same text, I reiterate. And the text is giving you some pointers on how you can understand Baha'u'llah. Not from my point of view, not from anybody's point of view, but from his point of view. He's telling you how to do it, how to go about this process of understanding what he's saying directly. And they're very useful things to remind yourself of. So I'm going to put it in the Roman numeral for each one of the lessons in case you want to look at it again. Then at the bottom of this next paragraph, of the first paragraph rather, there's a blue line. That is going to be the notes for that paragraph. Okay? Now, okay, so that's what it's got here. And And then in each of the successive paragraphs, it's going to have the notes for that paragraph. Now, does everybody, let's see, can we have a show of hands? Jeremiah, can you see the hands and see if everybody's got it? Because if people are confused, then maybe we need to do this a second time. Start from one and go through. So I see 2 hands. That's good. Let's see. No, I see a whole bunch of people over here who don't have hands up yet. All right, Diane's got a thumbs up. Now that's good. All right. But there's some people who don't have hands or thumbs. I just want to make sure that everybody understands. Because the idea is that if you can use this app, the whole purpose is that we want to be able to teach courses using this functionality because it's much less complicated once you learn how to use it than trying to do a whole bunch of different things in different ways, because you have to look everywhere to get what you want. We can put everything in one place. That's the idea. Okay. So let's go back and do this, and then after this is going to be a fairly short session because there are not that many readings. So we're going to have time for people to ask questions. We can have some discussion. Usually we're really, we have limited time, and so we don't have much time to do that. But this time we will. Okay? So let's do it. Now, if you want, we can use your version, but you're going to have to do something about that text so that we can see it. So
That's what I'm trying to do right now. So it might be better if you just start with yours.
Okay. All right. So you cancel your share and I'll share. Okay. We'll switch them. There you go. There we go. There we go. And then we're going to go down here. Okay. I just want to, yeah, here we go. Now, see here, I'm going to select this one, and then I'm going to go down and start the text. And the text is going to be right here. So here is going to be the general recommendations for things you can do, approaches you can use. All right, and I'll just give you one example because you can go through this yourself. The first one that I cite is this very important statement by Baha'u'llah that you don't have to go to school to understand the Word of God. He's very, very, very clear about this. The understanding of his words and the comprehension of the utterances of the birds of heaven are in no wise dependent on human learning. They depend solely upon purity of heart, chastity of soul, and freedom of spirit. So and there's some other wonderful instructions from Baha'u'llah about how to go about reading his writings and understanding them the way he intended. So then here we have a note. This is about there are a number of themes in the 10 excerpts from the writings of Baha'u'llah that are collected in Unit 7. The first theme is a description of Baha'u'llah's sojourn in Istanbul, which was then called Constantinople. The next one is a request from the learned, called the ulama, the clergy, in effect, of both the Shi'i and Sunni Muslims of the time, the Shi'i being the Muslims living in Iran, and the Sunni, the ones who lived all over the Ottoman Empire, which was the big Muslim empire at that time, and until actually the end of the First World War. And so this is a request that they had or were contemplating giving Baha'u'llah to prove that he was a prophet of God. And I'm not going to tell you the story because it's much too exciting for you to discover for yourself. Okay? All right, so there's that one. Then the next theme is the two kinds of predestination. And the two kinds of predestination that he talks about are in reference, they are in a tablet that he wrote to a mother who has experienced the death of her child and who is disconsolate, who is weeping, who is mourning this death. And he is explaining to her the context in which the death has occurred in order not just to comfort her, but to tell her the reality of what's happening with this child so that she understands that there's a greater plan afoot. And that in that plan, her child is in the best of hands, the hands of God. The next thing is this excerpt about the New World Order of Baha'u'llah. The next one after that is Baha'u'llah is calling upon the Baha'is to teach the cause when he dies. Very direct statement there. And then there is a passage here about his absence and that in him being present physically in the flesh has a special meaning for us, and his not being there also has a very important reason. In other words, it's okay for him to go because we need that. We need that to happen. Then the next theme is the signs of God, which are in all created things, and that the purpose of creation is the true believer. The next theme is the influence of the Word of God. And finally, the duty of each person to seek the truth for himself, which, of course, all of us Baha'is are familiar with in the wonderful wording of Abdu'l-Baha, the independent search for truth. So these are the themes that you're going to see in these various passages. And then I will go directly to the notes to show you what's in each of the passages. Now, in this next one, he's talking about the reason why it's important for this particular person to read about Baha'u'llah's experience in the city and upon his arrival in the city is that it's a warning unto them that believe. This is a lesson that they need to learn from. And so that you can contemplate what he means by that because he describes it in quite clear language. By the way, in most of these passages in Gleanings, Baha'u'llah is not speaking symbolically. Instead of speaking, although he does use a beautiful language and not sort of just simple terms sometimes, he's speaking directly about actual realities that we can come to understand.
May I please ask what number you're on?
Which number? Yes, we're on. This is number 66.
That's the first one.
Yeah, 66. We're still looking at 66. Okay. So this is going to be a lot about this this sojourn in Istanbul, in Constantinople, and the various things that are happening there. Okay. This is a very important thing here that Baha'u'llah says here, because he says, incline your ears to the counsels which this servant giveth you for the sake of God. He verily asketh no recompense from you, and is resigned to what God hath ordained for him, and is entirely submissive to God's will. This is a very strong statement of Baha'u'llah. I don't owe anything. You know, I'm not asking you for anything. I'm not looking for a reward. I'm doing this for God. And later on, he's going to make a similar statement about that, that he had made no claim to power. He does not desire to control people's lives. He's here to do God's will. And in here, it talks about what's going to happen in the future and what's going to happen to those who do not pay attention to what is required of them in the present. And here it talks about in the note that there are parallels, very strong parallels to these statements of what's required of us in this life, in the hidden words, in the epistle to the son of the wolf, and also in this wonderful passage from the Gospel of Matthew by Jesus, where he says, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Baha'u'llah makes the very, very same point. And he also makes it very forcefully just in just a few verses later when he writes, no one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. Wow. Here we go. Straight from Baha'u'llah, straight from Jesus. But Baha'u'llah says the same thing, and his language is actually sometimes even stronger, as we'll see. More advice here on how to treat our fellow human beings in all of these two paragraphs. I didn't feel it was necessary for me to write a note because sometimes Baha'u'llah speaks so directly that it really doesn't require any commentary at all. And then here is a very interesting point, because sometimes Baha'is read the Baha'i writings and assume that we're anti-clerical, that we don't want to have anything to do with leaders of religion. And that's not really the case. It's not. What we are warned about by Baha'u'llah and Abdu'l-Baha is that the leaders of religion have very often led people astray, and that they have led them to the wrong conclusions about the spirit, about God, and about the manifestations, rather than the right ones. But that does not mean that they are inherently evil. On the contrary, he says some very, very important, encouraging words here. And I wanted to cite to you various passages that you would find in other writings of Baha'u'llah where he talks about this very same theme. So basically, those people who are learned in religion are very much worthy of our respect as long as they are following the teachings of God. If they are going off and seeking to make profit for themselves and misleading people and turning them away from the way of God, well, then they're making a big mistake. And in other words, they're capable of great good and great evil. And it all depends on the choices that they make. Then here he's talking about that the sufferings of the manifestations happen to all of them. Here, know ye that the trials and tribulations from time immemorial have been the lot of the chosen ones of God and his beloved. And such of his servants as are detached from all else but him. So it's not just the manifestations who suffer. It's the believers who are really true believers, because this is the way of God, is that we have to sacrifice our lives in his path in order to implement his teachings. And there's point I wanted to make here about this paragraph is that he's talking not just about his religion. He's talking not just about the Baha'i faith. This is about all the manifestations of God. This is a teaching of every religion. And here, the next paragraph, he talks about how in the future there will be a people who will rise up, who will remember his sacrifices, that will demand the restitution of our rights, and that they be treated with justice instead of injustice. And this, or a very similar quote, you may be familiar with from the Advent of Divine Justice, where there are page after page of quotations of Baha'u'llah translated by the Guardian, many of them only in that letter, which, by the way, was written in Christmas, on Christmas, dated for Christmas. That letter to the American Baha'is, but of course, really for all the Baha'is, in which he's talking about the characteristics of the great champions of the faith that God will raise up in due course, when it's the right time. And more words here. This whole paragraph really is about the. I'm again alluding to the advent of divine justice, because he's talking about the standard of absolute consecration to the faith that will come forth from the Baha'is at some time in the future. And already we have seen individual Baha'is who have arisen, and we read biographies of them, and we sometimes meet individuals like this. But you know, Baha'u'llah predicts that there will come a time when there will be a revolution in human development, and that this will come when the Baha'is are ready to lead it, but also when mankind is ready to listen. So now I'm going to go to this next number, which is 67. And here he's talking about those people who have rejected the Bab and Baha'u'llah, and saying that they are very similar, if not identical, to the people, the polytheists of Mecca, who repudiated Muhammad. And the argument that they cite in attacking the Bab and Baha'u'llah is the same as what the Quran records of what people said about Muhammad. And what is that? They say he's a sorcerer. He's a sorcerer. That means he's a magician. He's a brainwasher. He's manipulating you to believe something that's not true. And of course, Baha'u'llah is challenging that. But he says that this has always been the case, that they always claim that the messenger of God is a liar. And more than a liar, it's kind of like some kind of a conjurer who can sort of brainwash us into thinking something that's not true. And then here, the next paragraph here, it's talking about Iraq, what was happening in Iraq. And as I mentioned before, this is talking about the time when one of the clergy came to Baha'u'llah and said, we want you to provide a sign of your prophethood, of that you're speaking the truth, that you come from God. And then Baha'u'llah responded by saying, you have to choose one. Anything you want to choose, it's fine, but you have to choose one. And then they never came back. That's the short of the story was he never came back. And so Baha'u'llah, of course, could claim rightfully that, you know, they didn't even have the courage to try to see if he was going to come up with a proof of his prophethood, because they didn't want to have to acknowledge it. it- and so then we come to again, he's relating these when he talks about the signs of God, that this is something that is a theme that is shown in each dispensation by each manifestation. In the case of Jesus, for example, the proofs of Jesus, and the Gospels all talk about this. Jesus was asked, "What proof do you give that you are a true prophet?" And they knew from the book of Deuteronomy 18:18, that's the verse in the chapter, that a true prophet makes a prophecy that comes true, and the false prophet makes a prophecy that doesn't come true. So they're trying to trick him, but they're also trying to find out, are you a true prophet? Because if you're a true prophet, then you can predict something that will happen, and it does happen. So Jesus said, I'm giving you one proof. And consequently, it's important for us to understand all those so-called miracles of Jesus, those are not proofs. They were not proofs for anybody except for maybe later Christians, but they were not proofs in the eyes of the Jewish people. The Jewish people were looking for one prediction that comes true. And that prediction, Jesus said, is that you will have the sign of Noah. And Jonah, not Noah, but Jonah. Jonah, remember, had 3 days in the belly of the whale, and then he was delivered from that. So he said, this is going to be the sign. And there's much description and discussion of what that means in obviously in Christian literature. But I bring that up because Baha'u'llah states very straightforwardly that he is providing signs, proofs of his prophethood, because every prophet has to, and he has done so. Let's see, I want to go down. The next passage here, 68, is referring to a woman. How do I know that? Because it says the fruit of my tree and the leaf thereof. When he speaks about a relation of his who is a female, who is a woman, she's called a leaf. That's why Bahia, his daughter was called the greatest holy leaf, was because she was the most exalted of his daughters, whereas his sons are called branches. They are called branches, all of them. And this is a translation from the original Arabic. And the fruit of my tree means that this is a child of mine. So it's speaking of a woman who is related to him, either his daughter or a close relative. And this is the daughter that I mentioned before, whose child died very young, and she was very disconsolate about this, and he was explaining the meaning of this sacrifice, and say, and look at how tender he is when he says, you will most certainly discover that which would dissipate thy sorrows and dissolve thine anguish. You're not going to be sad anymore once you read what I've said and understand what's going to happen. So here he talks about predestination, okay? And then he gives this very beautiful prayer for her to say, all right, which I've highlighted in pink. I'm not really sure why, but anyway, just so you can see that it's a prayer. Then we have 69. And this is on the same theme, because this is talking about the mother of Ashraf. And who was Ashraf? Ashraf was a young Babi who died for the faith. He was a martyr to the faith. And before they killed him, they brought his mother to try to persuade him to recant and become a Muslim again and say he was a Muslim, even though he would be lying. And he refused. And she defended him and encouraged him to sacrifice his life for the truth. And it's a story that deeply, deeply moved Baha'u'llah, and he cites it in more than one tablet, including a tablet to this mother of Ashraf herself. The language here that he uses is really so exalted that anybody who has gone through tragedy in their life should really read this story to get the encouragement and the perspective that he gives to those who lose their loved ones. Now we go into 70, number 70. And this first one here, this first passage is a citation from the Kitab Aqdas about the world order of Baha'u'llah. All right. And in fact, all three of these quotations are from the Kitab Aqdas. Okay. And I'm looking at these notes, and I'm seeing that something went wrong with my with the interface, because my note is much longer than this. So something happened. So I'm going to have to fix this so that when you go and you read the notes later on, you can see the full text. And this has happened a couple of times here that I'm seeing nothing. I'm just like, I've got a little, I went from a yellow thing to a green thing, but you're not getting any more text. And you're supposed to get a lot more text. I'll fix it. All right. And then this part 2, we'll go to part 2 here. And we may run into this. No, this one actually worked. Okay, fine. That's good. So let's go back to this. All right. This passage is also from the Kitab Aqdas. And maybe you didn't know this, but many of the most powerful, most beautiful passages of the Kitab Aqdas that we read when we read that book, as it was published in 1992, were actually translated by the Guardian. And he set the standard, of course, and the other translators did their very best to come as close as possible. All of these passages in 71 are his translations. Here you have him talking about serving the cause, which is basically teaching the faith. And here it's talking about what's happening to the world, what the state of the world is that we're addressing. And then in this next paragraph, he's reminding us that our physical possessions are not important. That's really the important thing is that we serve the cause with all of our capacity, because this is such a critical time for us to spread the declaration abroad that not only that a new manifestation has arrived, but that the cycle of fulfillment of humanity, the coming of age of humanity has come. And here are some notes here in which I explained, the provenance of the excerpts from the Kitab Aqdas, and also that sort of how the Kitab Aqdas, as we know it from 1992, has come into existence. Okay, so maybe those notes will be useful if you're not already informed about that. Then we have, then these are also quotations from the Kitab Aqdas, and which again, he is assuring people to not be upset when he leaves, because as he puts it, in my presence amongst you, there is a wisdom, and in my absence, there is yet another, inscrutable to all but God, the incomparable, the all-knowing. So we have to have confidence that the manifestation's presence is essential for us, and also his absence. Both things are for our guidance. I mean, all of us probably at one time or another wished that Baha'u'llah was here always, forever. But that's not God's plan. That's not what he wants us to do. And here, this is a very important thing, because it's Baha'u'llah speaking directly to us. Beware lest the desires of the flesh and of a corrupt inclination provoke divisions among you. Be ye as the fingers of one hand, the members of one body. Thus counseleth you the pen of Revelation, if ye be of them that believe. Sometimes when we use the word unity, it doesn't pack the same impact as actually reading these words of Baha'u'llah, because his symbolism is just so penetrating. To be the fingers of one hand, we can't even imagine having a hand with fingers that are detached from each other. They're all connected. They have to be in order to function. And this is what we're meant to be like. His followers are meant to be like the members of one body. This is another teaching that if we study the Gospels, and if we're having dialogue with Christians, we're going to find that Christians receive the same commandment from Jesus. Jesus told them that they must be united like the members of one body. And this is a commandment to the followers of every manifestation. And the degree to which we follow it is the degree to which we actually have a transforming influence on the world around us. If they see us fighting with each other, then why should they come and follow us? They know instinctively that's not the truth. And here Baha'u'llah assures us that that God can dispense with all creatures. Your evil doings can never harm us. Neither can your good works profit us. We summon you wholly for the sake of God. There's some notes here too that I've put in that you can read. Let's see now. I'm going to. Yeah, these are also this particular passage, which is 73, is talking about eternal teachings that are found in by all the prophets, and so is this one. And you can. What I want to do is I want to give some time for you to ask questions, and for us to talk about, what is it like to encounter this text and to live with it for a period of time. I'd like to do that, but before I do that, I want to say this. I want to quote this last paragraph that we have here. The signs of God shine as manifest and resplendent as the sun amidst the works of his creatures. And this is a challenge to us, because we are so immersed in this physical world and with all of our activities in this world that sometimes it feels like the world is what's shining And the signs of God are like very hard to even recognize where they are. And, you know, the world sometimes feels like it's so badly managed that how can we believe that God is actually in charge ultimately of what's going to happen? But Baha'u'llah is really challenging us to really look in a completely different way. And that's why it's such a, it takes real effort on our part to immerse ourselves in the writing so that we see his perspective and we can be influenced by his thinking to see things from his point of view. It's a very different point of view. In his point of view, God is in charge, and his signs are the shining of the sun in comparison with the shadows that everything else is in existence. Everything else is that's man-made or that's even of the physical creation is so subordinate to this manifestation of divine wisdom. And so important for us to also remember this last word that he says. This is all to make us happy. Happy are they that have recognized this truth. It's not to make us sad and somber and you know, judgmental or depressed or angry or inadequate. None of those feelings. His purpose is always to uplift us and make us joyful. Because when we recognize the power of the divine and its capacity to change us, and we experience that change for ourselves, it makes us happy. It makes us happy. And then, of course, we want to share our joy with other people. And so teaching becomes a natural thing that happens just because we are teaching in ourselves, in our very being. Here are some quotations here that talk about the signs of God and how they are found in so many places, in so many aspects of life. Now, I promised you some time to talk and to respond and to ask questions, and also not just about the material, but also about this app, and see, are you using the app? Is it working for you? Is there something that needs to be done differently? We need to know, because we're not even halfway through this book, and we can make a lot of changes for the better if you will help us, if you will respond to us. And so that's I want to turn this over to you and encourage you to raise your hands and ask your questions or make your statements. How's that? And what Jeremiah can do is he can unmute you so that you can speak, because we don't want everybody to speak at the same time. That's what my family used to do on Thanksgiving. We get together, we're so excited to be together, and we all speak at the same time and nobody hears anybody. So, okay. Mitchell.
Okay, I'll probably think of more, but I have two questions. What the recordings of these lectures, are they going to be for in-house use and improvements, or are they going to be accessible at some point to people viewing the course later?
The videos, the Zoom videos are available on Facebook and on YouTube on the stations of the Clearwater Baha'is very soon after they are broadcast live. So they're live right now. They're live streaming,
Okay.
but then they will be broadcast in those two locations basically immediately afterwards. And they're not going to be edited. They're not going to be uh they won't be modified in any way. And the reason why is because not that we can't do better, but let's share what we've done here, and then hopefully it will inspire other people to go and take the same book and the same ideas and then go do something with it.
Okay, yes. Um, and this is more of a textual reference. Is there any i- is there any way to know like passages that are exclusively from each book or each text? I'm asking a big question here of organization that I don't know if it's actually complete, but like because I'm interested to know the unique um, words in each book. I mean,
Okay.
seeing if yeah.
So what I'm going to do for you is at some point, and I can do this next time if you like, I'm going to post for you and for everybody else a link to Ocean of Lights. Ocean of Lights is a sort of companion to Ocean 2.0. It is composed of the Arabic and Persian texts of the writings. And what we have for Gleanings is we have a parallel text. In other words, we have the Persian or Arabic on one side and the English translation of the Guardian on the other side. So it is possible to actually go and study them side by side. Now, of course, you can't really study them if you don't know the alphabet. You don't have to be a fluent reader in Arabic or Persian to actually read those languages. I know because I've been reading them for years. You have to know the alphabet, and then you have to go and look up words. And eventually you get a vocabulary, and eventually you understand quite a few things. So the other thing is that we have some information about to whom the tablets were written. And in some cases, a little bit of information about when they were written. And that information is on a spreadsheet. Sometimes I cite it in the course of these lectures. Most of the time I don't, because I want to focus on the content of Baha'u'llah in Gleanings. But
Yes,
there's a
understandable.
spreadsheet, and I can share that with you and actually with the whole group. I'll share the spreadsheet and we can put it up on Clearwater as well. And it will show you what we know about when and where and to whom every excerpt was written. Some cases we don't know. We don't know much. In other cases, we know a lot. Okay?
Okay.
One of the things I wanted to point out is that Shoghi Effendi selected these particular excerpts and translated them in 1935. And he had already translated the hidden words. He'd already translated Kitab-i-Igan. And after he translated Gleanings, he was going to translate Epistle to the Son of the Wolf, which was Baha'u'llah's last book. This is the only collection of excerpts that Shoghi Effendi ever translated. And this is why I wanted to do a course on it, because it represents his choice of the texts that he believed were most important for people who do not read Arabic and Persian, right? Who do not have access to the original texts. For them to have a broad understanding of the kind of themes that Baha'u'llah covers in his writings. So let's see, do we have another hand? Where are the hands? I know there's somebody here who has a burning desire to say something. But you're also modest and polite. Yes, okay. I understand that. I appreciate that. But I would love for, yes, Molly, go.
When the manifestation finally passes away, there's such a tremendous force, a tremendous release of, say, 1,000 years of progression, and that innately, I can't express it, but it's so overpowering with the release.
Molly, I'm so glad you raised this. A couple of sessions ago, we read a passage of Baha'u'llah where he described the effect of the crucifixion of Jesus, the sacrifice of the life of Jesus, and the release of his spirit, and the effect that it had on human beings. Okay? Now, just imagine for a moment, we know the tremendous influence that Jesus has had on humanity for the last 2,000 years. Imagine that Baha'u'llah says that his revelation is going to have that kind of revolutionary spirit on 500,000 years.
Under his umbrella.
It's just absolutely, beyond our comprehension. This is such a massive change for humanity. And we of the West tend to pride ourselves on our developments, and we think that we're really hot stuff because pretty soon we'll be driving helicopters instead of cars. And the reality is that compared to the release of the spiritual forces of Baha'u'llah, this is like playthings of a child,
This is just the beginning.
It's just
of
the beginning.
Tremendous outpouring.
And actually, one of the insights that I remember reading Einstein saying that the average person is using less than 5% of their brain. Well, Baha'u'llah is talking about what's happening when humanity starts using this extraordinary thing up here, And we're starting to see the power, because somebody who can write code as a programmer and keep 1 million characters in their mind has got a capacity that previous generations never had. Okay? And yet it's a plaything for those people who are doing that. And we see it with our kids. I have a 6-year-old who knows how to manipulate and get around on my phone faster than I can, and she doesn't even know how to read yet. But she just does it. It's astonishing to me. But we were told about this a long time ago. Jesus talked about this. He said the children of that day will be far, far superior to the adults of today. That's already come to be.
Yeah, that was the Bob statement. The Bob mentioned that.
And the Bob mentioned it too, because he's talking about, he doesn't say someday, he says this day.
This day.
This is when it's happening now.
That's right. You could see it. They're so smart. Even the babies are so animated and so advanced for their age. The babies. It's amazing. So.
Yes, it is. And it's also a tremendous responsibility for those of us who are parents and grandparents and members of the community, because at the same time as these gentle, growing souls have tremendous potential, at the same time, they are beset with such ferocious forces of reaction.
Mhm.
And those forces of reaction are coming from traditional religion to some degree, but now also they're coming tremendously from material culture, because material culture now has become so overpowering. It dominates so much of our lives. When most of us, when we were young, we were brought up and you go to church. That meant one day a week you actually think about something besides money and toys and games and other stuff that preoccupy human beings. Most people don't go to church anymore, right? They don't go to church, they don't go to synagogue, they don't go to mosque, they don't go to anything. And so they're 24/7 preoccupied with things of this world. And here the manifestation is telling us we have to be detached from this world because it's the other world that's much more important and
Mhm.
actually much more powerful. And it's the other world that is going to inspire us with the joy and with the
Mhm.
unity that is going to really make this new civilization come into existence.
Yeah, there was a news report that the young boys, the young men are going to church. They're receptive. They're looking for some guidance because right now they're overwhelmed what's going on in their lives. They feel that they're left behind, and the women are starting to advance more in so many ways. And it's affecting the young boys, the young, even young students.
Well, and
So,
some of them are turning to the church, but that can be problematic, unfortunately, because some of them go to this. They're reviving the old fashions attitudes, and this instead they're trying to go backwards. We can't go backwards.
mm-mm,
The challenge of an ever advancing civilization is always there, you know, even though we need to be grounded in the teachings of the manifestations, that grounding still has to be open to what the most recent manifestation has told
yes.
us. And there's no escaping that. And so a lot of these young people are going back and they're trying to seek solace and spiritual inspiration from something that is in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I understand. I understand how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel their suffering and I feel their need, but
Mm-hmm.
they we have to keep moving. It has to be a positive direction because otherwise, um, otherwise it ends up just being a very small remnant of people
Mm-hmm.
who cling to religion as if it is a security blanket. It's not. It's
Yeah.
it's a tremendous liberating force, a
Mm-hmm.
transformative force,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, and uh, I wanted to share with you something that happened to me today. I was at Stanford University talking with a professor of Persian studies, and he told me that on Saturday they're going to honor Hossein Amonat. Now, do any of you know who Hossein Amonat is? I'm looking for one hand. No. Okay.
Yes.
So let me tell you who Hossein Amonat is. Hossein Amonat is the grandson of a Orthodox rabbi who he and his whole family were converted to the faith. And then the family became staunch Baha'is under all the persecutions that happened under Abdul Baha and then Shoghi Effendi. And one of the descendants of this rabbi is one of the foremost architects of the 20th century. His name is Hossein Amonat. And another descendant of his was a psychiatrist, a really great psychiatrist in the field of ADHD, and various other psychological ailments. Others are doctors, a very eminent family. One of them is one of the grandsons is the preeminent historian of Iran in the 20th century, the best historian we have. And they're all Baha'i. They're all Baha'i. And they were all Jewish. And this is one of the things that's happened in this cause, which is extraordinary, is you look into Christian history, how many Jews became exceptional Christians? Almost none. Christianity was adopted by mostly people who weren't Jewish. The first generation were all Jewish, but then after that, it was almost completely people who weren't Jewish. And what's happening in the Baha'i faith is that Jews are converting and becoming exemplary Baha'is.
Mm-hmm.
Christians are converting and becoming exemplary Baha'is.
Mm-hmm.
Muslims are doing from all these different backgrounds, and they're reaching for the same high standards. This is the future. This is what the
right.
future is holding for us. It's never happened before that we have people from so many different faith backgrounds
Mm-hmm.
who are coming together in unity and striving for the highest standards and achieving them.
Mm-hmm.
This is enormously encouraging, even if we look at our numbers and we think we're so few. It doesn't matter how few we are. What matters is how good the few are, how exceptional they are, because this is sooner or later, that's what the people of the world will notice. When they see that the Baha'is are really different from other people, then they'll be attracted.
We have to bless Baha'u'llah for the intercommunication that we have now. There are people going on podcasts and they're going on iTunes, and they're learning more about the faith. There's so much out there. Songs and prayers and lectures. It's amazing. I'm learning so much about the faith. I've been in the faith for 70 years, and I'm really learning so much more through the internet. And I thank God that I'm still alive, that I have this privilege of seeing how the faith is progressing.
That's wonderful, Molly. I want to thank you all for coming today, and the notes for this session, which some of which do not seem to have appeared in the text that you saw. I will make sure that they go in the next day, 24 hours, and then the 8th lesson those notes will go in by Friday, so that you can begin to read them and think about them. And by the way, when I send you the notifications, I hope, let's have a couple of hands here and see, are people getting emails from me, or are they not getting messages?
Oh, I got a message.
Is everybody getting the notifications that I'm sending out to everybody? Because I want to make sure that it's actually working.
Yes.
I'm not getting it.
You're not getting it?
I was getting some, but I didn't get any notice about this meeting at
Oh,
all.
really?
Right, we didn't
I
get it.
had to use a prior notice in order to get on.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry about that. It went out yesterday. So that's telling me the notifications are not going where they need to go. I'm going to tell the developers about that immediately, because it's very important. because they're otherwise, I don't have the emails for all these people. It's supposed to be working as such that you give your emails when you register for the class, and then they go into a database, and then when I send a message, it goes to all of you. That's how it's supposed to work. But if you're not getting the messages, then that's not working properly. So
We haven't gotten any recent ones.
okay. All right. I'm terribly sorry about that, and we're going to fix that right away. Okay? And
I just have one question, Peter. I didn't. Maybe you
Go
have
ahead.
said this at one point or other, but wonder why you're not using the latest version of the Gleanings. When I say the latest version, the ones that have the numbers in Arabic, or what I mean in non-Roman numbers, and has the paragraph numbers.
Oh, that's a good question, and I'm not. I understand what you're talking about. The one that's been published with a new title.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's
Right.
the same. I don't think any of the translations have changed. Just the way it's formatted.
Right. Okay. I'm glad that you asked that question. I'm going to pass that along and find out because they should have that.
Easy to follow to know which paragraph it's in particularly.
Exactly. That would be very helpful. The other thing that would be helpful is that if we have those paragraphs, then what you can do is you can click on a little arrow and you will get the audio, so you can hear it at the same time as you're reading it. If you don't have that version, there's no button to click. So it doesn't work, right? Yeah. So thank you for pointing that out. Now I'm seeing some people are getting emailed notifications and other people are not. It may be because not all of you have actually registered for the course. So if you're not sure,
I was receiving all of them. Just in the last week.
in the last week you didn't get anything.
No, nothing in the last week.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you what. I'm going to ask you to ask you to do some homework. It's only one assignment. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send a notification within the next hour. I'm going to send a notification and I'm going to make sure that it goes out according to my procedure. And I'm going to put my email in it. And it's going to be called a test. And I'm going to ask you if you get it. Obviously, if you don't get it, then you can't do anything, right? But if you get it, reply to it immediately by replying to the email and say, I got it. And then I'm going to know who got it and who didn't. All right. And then we can start narrowing down on fixing the problems of the people who are not getting communications.
That's good. Peter,
Okay.
Peter, with all due respects, I think you told us that when you send out your emails, if we reply to you, then something happens and you don't get it. Because
That's
I
because,
sent you
yes.
2 letters and
Dee, let me explain. You can't reply to the announcement because it doesn't allow you to reply. I don't know why it's configured that way. But if I put my email in there, you just click on my email and send me a message. You see what I mean? My email will be in the announcement. So all you have to do is go to your Gmail account or whatever you have, and then copy and paste my email in there and send me a note.
Can you put your email in the chat?
Oh, yes, I could do that right now. Okay. This is my
Thank
email. Wait. Now, do you all see that? peterry19@gmail.com. Okay? But if you don't, but like I said, I'll send out an announcement with the email in it. And so if you would kindly just respond to the email, send me an email and say, I got it. And then those of you who don't send me an email, I will realize you're not getting the announcements. And then we'll try to figure out why. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, my friends. Thank you for coming today. And the notes for the coming reading, which will be the 8th, will come your way tomorrow. And they'll be going in various different places, so that if you don't find them one place, look in another. Like, for example, if for some reason you can't get into the app and the app doesn't work for you, go to Clearwater. It will be on their page for the Gleanings series. And actually, if Jeremiah is there, could you just give a demonstration of where they can go to find that on Clearwater, so that, that can always be a backup plan for whoever is not able to get the app to work properly. Is he there? Maybe he's not.
No, I'm here. Give me.
You're there.
There he is, yeah.
Start the screen.
Okay, I will stop. Am I sharing? No, I'm not sharing. So you can share and show us where you find this. Jeremiah is the webmaster for the Clearwater Baha'i community that has all kinds of resources. So here, you see where you go? You go clearwaterbaha'is.org. And then what do? You go to educational resources. Is that right?
It's easiest if people just go to the landing page and then they click right on it. So you go to the home page, you scroll down, and then there's a bunch of upcoming, current, previous, and it's the first one, Gleanings from the Writings of Bahá'u'lláh.
Okay. And you
You-
click on that, and
Yep.
then it brings it to this page, and then this has the list. You see? So right now it's through 7, but I'll be adding 8 tomorrow.
If there's no other questions, I think it's a good time to go ahead and close out.
Okay, friends, we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming, everybody.